Hi and welcome. My name is Dr. Debbie Koyman with liveyourlifefully.com, and this is part two of my videos on primary versus secondary emotions. So in my first video, I explained to you what primary and secondary emotions are, and in this video, I'm going to give you an example of an experience that shows both primary and secondary emotions so you can get a better sense of what primary and secondary emotions are and what that actually looks like when we're experiencing primary and secondary emotions. So I'm going to share an example from my own life, actually. That is a current example. It's something that I'm actually currently dealing with and experiencing and has to do with these videos, actually. So I have a mix of emotions with the videos, and I have both some primary emotions and some secondary emotions that are coming up that I think will be an excellent illustration for how this process works. So let me first start with the primary emotions. And I have a mix of both primary and secondary emotions actually in this situation. So I'll start with the first primary emotion I'll start with is a positive emotion. So one of my primary emotions with these videos is excitement. This is something that I've been thinking about doing for a little bit and have been wanting, even before I started thinking about doing this particular avenue with the videos, I'd been wanting to kind of expand my business, expand my influence, do something creative, a little more challenging than what I've been doing. The therapy I've done for so long and I love it to death, but it's something I've been doing for so long that it doesn't provide the same challenge with the newness. So I've been looking for something, and when this came to me, and then when I actually started doing the videos, I was really excited. This is something, again, that's it's challenging, which is exciting for me. I like to be challenged and stimulated. I love my profession. I love what I do. I have a lot of passion for the work that I do, and I want to share. Really, I would love to share my knowledge with the whole entire world. And so this provides an avenue where certainly my reach can be to many more people than I can get within just my individual life or my practice. So I'm really, really excited about that. And you can see that seems like a normal emotion. We're doing something that's exciting, that's new, that's fun, and we're excited. So that is one of my primary emotions. And actually, I'll stick with that one and go through the secondary emotions from this primary emotion, and then I'll talk about the other primary emotion. So um, we can actually have secondary emotions from primary emotions that are positive. I didn't talk a lot about that in my first video. I talked mostly about negative emotions, but we can have secondary emotions from our positive emotions. So with excitement, some of the secondary emotions that come for me are fear is one of the secondary emotions. I'm excited, and there's a little voice somewhere back in my head that says, "Oh, no, no, don't be excited. If you get too excited, you're going to jinx it. You're going to get disappointed when it doesn't go the way that you want to." So there's these voices in my head that we talked in the first video that our secondary emotions can be reactions to or judgments about our primary emotion. So one of my reactions to my primary emotion is, again, these voices in my head that say, "Oh, no, no, that's not safe. Don't do that." And then that creates, ooh, fear. Oh my gosh, what if this doesn't work out? What if all sorts of things? What if you don't like it? What if I make a fool of myself? What if? And that creates fear, it creates doubt, it creates insecurity, it creates a reaction, a desire to hide, to turn away. Brene Brown on her TED Talk video talked about wanting to, after she did her first one, wanting to break in to TED and erase her video so nobody could see it. Retreat, retreat, retreat. So those are some of the secondary emotions I have to excitement. And you may be able to relate to that. That if you have something positive or exciting in your life, you might be afraid that it's not going to happen, it's going to be taken away. Again, something's going to happen that's going to take away your excitement. And so we kind of temper our feelings. We don't let ourselves be excited. We spin into these other emotions, and now I'm afraid and I'm doubting and I'm insecure. And hopefully you can see how, one, that takes away from our primary emotion, but it also creates these secondary emotions with something that's positive for me. Now I'm switching it over into a negative experience. So hopefully that gives you a little bit of a sense of how that may work. Let me talk about the other primary emotion. One of my primary emotions, in addition to the excitement, is some appropriate primary fear. And let me talk a little bit about that. Doing these videos is very vulnerable. I'm exposing myself to the world, anybody who watches these videos, and that's a little bit scary because I don't know you. I don't know all of you. I don't know what you'll do with the information. It's a new experience, so I'm not sure what to expect. And some normal fear is appropriate to have that when we're being vulnerable, when we're being open, when we're going into a new situation. It's appropriate for us to have a level of anxiety, trepidation, fear. And so I have some of that in addition to my excitement. And with that, you can see that we can have a mix of emotions, both positive and negative, about the same experience, just like I do. I'm excited and I'm afraid. And sometimes people think that we can't have both of those emotions. I can't be excited and afraid. They somehow cancel each other out. Or if I'm afraid, that means I'm not really excited. Or if I'm excited, I can't be afraid. But that's not true. As human beings, we can have lots of different emotions at the same time. And we do often. And a lot of people actually cause themselves suffering because they feel like they have to pick between their different emotions. I'm here to tell you, you don't have to pick between your emotions. You feel what you feel. And sometimes we will feel both positive and negative at the same time. So in addition to the excitement, I also feel some primary fear. Now, from the primary fear, I also have a lot of secondary emotions. And one of my secondary emotions is also fear. Now, that may seem strange. How can you have primary fear and secondary fear? But you can. You can have the same emotion that is a primary feeling and a secondary feeling as well. And the distinction with that is the primary feeling, as with all primary feelings, it's a normal feeling. It's a normal response that anyone would have. So anybody going into a new situation that they're not quite sure about, that they're being vulnerable, that's a normal reaction to have some anxiety and fear. The secondary fear comes from, again, judgment about or reaction to. So part of my secondary fear, I talked a little bit about with the excitement as well, is a reaction to, okay, well, if I'm scared, what does that mean? Maybe this isn't a good idea. Maybe I shouldn't be vulnerable. Maybe it's bad to be vulnerable. Maybe you're going to judge me and that's bad, so I shouldn't do it. And if I'm scared, maybe something bad's going to happen. If you judge me, what does that mean? Maybe that means that I'm not a good person. I'm not a good therapist. I made a horrible mistake by doing these videos. Those are just some of the fears. And then those fears create more feelings similar to the with the excitement is then I start doubting myself. Oh my gosh, do I really know what I'm doing? Do I really have anything valuable to offer? Is anybody really going to want to hear what I have to say? Is anybody really going to watch? It creates insecurity. Nobody's really going to like me. I could go on and on and on and on. My secondary emotions, like I said in the last one, spin in circles, go in an avalanche, create all sorts of craziness in my head. And again, maybe you can relate to this, that when you do something, it may trigger fear for you and insecurity and doubt. And it can, in addition to that, it create all other sorts of feelings. I forgot shame. I can start feeling shameful about who I am. Like, oh no, I'm not really a good person. I'm not really a good therapist. I'm a fraud. What am I thinking? All sorts of stuff. And I talked about in the first video how our secondary emotions can increase our pain and our suffering. And I think you can probably see how some normal fear and now all of this other fear, this insecurity, this doubt, this shame, really, really painful stuff. And like I said in the other video, we often problem solve to these secondary emotions. So if I'm listening to these secondary emotions, what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop doing the videos. I'm going to run and hide. I'm going to tell myself, you're not good enough. You're not worthy. This was a stupid idea. What are you thinking? And I'm going to stop. And that's often where it goes to for me, is it creates this demotivation, this lack of energy. This pattern is something I've experienced in my life multiple times. And if I listen to the secondary emotions, what I will do is I will shut down and I will stop. I'll listen to those. I'll say, okay, you're right. You're right. This is a terrible idea. It's too scary. None of us like to experience fear. It's designed that way. And I'm going to do a video later. I'll talk more about fear. But it's scary. It's uncomfortable. We don't like it. It wants us to run away or to fight. I will typically run away though versus fighting. That's how I tend to work. So that's usually what would happen. Thank goodness I'm in a place where I understand my primary and secondary emotions better. So rather than getting caught up in this process, which often will happen, is we have the primary emotion, switches over to secondary emotion. We're 0 to 60 in 2 seconds flat. We're over in our insecurity and our shame. We don't even know a primary emotion happened, and then we just react to that, and we feel bad. We stop, we shut down, we hide, we get depressed, we get overly anxious, something. And it can wreak all sorts of havoc in our lives. And I'm guessing, you might be able to have some experiences, maybe past or present, where this process has happened to you and it has wreaked havoc in your life. And so, like I said, thank goodness I'm in a place where I can recognize this is happening. I can watch. It's kind of fascinating to me as a therapist, because this is what I do, to watch my own process and to observe it without getting caught up in it like I used to. I used to be 0 to 60 for sure. Sometimes I still am. Sometimes I get caught up in that wave, but most of the time I'm able to recognize it and slow down and stop, not get caught up in the process. And I don't have time to do it in this video, but I'm going to do a third part and talk about like how we can react to the primary, secondary emotions. And I'll probably use this example, I'll expand on this example and talk about what I've done to identify those feelings for myself and then to respond to them, to give you some ideas, again, of how this process works, what that looks like in practice, in actuality, to respond to our emotions. So I hope this has been helpful. I hope I've shared something that you can relate to as well. And again, as always, if you have comments or questions, please leave a comment in the box below, or feel free to email me personally at drkoyman@liveyourlifefully.com. Thanks.